Hello everybody, welcome to Critical Hit. I'm Matthew.
I'm Kyle.
And I'm David.
Today we're talking about D&D, particularly 5th edition, which just came out last month.
D&D stands for Dungeons and Dragons, children.
It's a far-out, spooky game where basically you gather at the table with your candles and your goat virgins and you sacrifice them to appease the dark gods and learn magic and necromancy and whatnot. And if you don't do it correctly, then you gotta get kicked out of the group and subsequently lose all your friends.
This is called satire, children.
Are the goats virgins?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you definitely...
But in all seriousness...
Alright, yeah, so Dungeons and Dragons is a game you play where basically you have one person who is the DM who tells a story with the other people at the table who are the players. They've created these characters, right? So basically the characters go around and have an adventure and the DM referees / supervises the adventure that it's had, right? So the DM could throw trolls at you and your halfling paladin warrior could fight the troll and get tossed into space because you're tiny and puny. So like you use a lot of acting, use a lot of combat, and there's a lot of like cool little niches you can do, spells or maybe be a fighter. While your DM creates these monsters in this world for you to explore.
Different kinds of monsters to fight, different kinds of weapons to use, different kind of people that you get to play. It's like being an actor.
Yeah, it's limited by your imagination. The DM can basically do whatever they want, from, like I said, wizards to spaceships. Whatever the DM imagines is going to happen. And then the players basically experience it and live it out. So... with all of that zaniness, I want to know what did you guys think, especially of 5th edition, but also D&D as a whole, because I know for you guys, you're kind of more new to it. So what do you think, Al?
Well, I've been playing for, almost 2 years now, I think.
I have a little bit of experience playing 3.5, a little less playing 4th edition. This game was fun because of the way it seemed to really balance out the classes. So you're not getting dinged for being the fighter or for being the wizard at a particular level. Everyone's kind of coming in and they have their role to play and they can play it. So for instance, I use this as an opportunity to play monk, which since I played 3.5 the most, that's kind of a place where it's worthless to even play it. So I got to try this out and I actually had a really good time just kind of getting to be this martial arts kind of character there. And that was, let me play a different kind of character that in another game I might have been limited because of the way the system is built.
Right.
Just by what you're able to do and when you're able to do it. This game is just very freeing as a version. I personally really enjoy that. I like that I can be whatever, honestly, I want to at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, as for me, I haven't even really played D&D that much. I mean, this is actually my third game, depending on what exactly you consider a game, really. Partially, I haven't really played it enough to have a comparison. But, I mean, having said that, what little I was able to really sort of explicitly notice was different about 5, I really liked. Like, I really liked the new features. I really liked the character, sort of the character backstory features. I felt like it really helped the game move along as a story.
Definitely.
With surprising effectiveness.
Yeah, for me, I'd say, like, I've been playing D&D for, I think, 6 years now, and I played a lot of 4th edition. I played 4th edition first, DM'd a lot of games, played as a character in a lot of games, and then I played 3.5 for a couple years after that, and I really liked both editions. I still really like both editions. But 5th edition was really fun. I've played about 3 games now since it came out. Like Kyle said, it's very freeing. I have the fun combat of the 4th edition that offers without, like, the restrictions of the rules of 3.5, while also having the creativity 3.5 has that 4th at times lacked. So well,
what it's done is it's balanced the fighting and sort of the role-playing aspect of those past versions.
While eliminating the jumble of rules so that you have more free time to think about storytelling as a whole.
Yeah, it's very streamlined.
It seemed much more simple. The like elements of the combat and stuff. Even I could sort of tell. I was having to figure out less by myself.
Yeah, well, I mean, you didn't take that long even to build a character, compared to other 3.5, which takes me forever anytime I want to try something new.
You can explain the rules in under 10 minutes. Like it's actually really easy for anyone to pick up, which is really nice. Before we get into that a little bit further, I want to talk about D&D as a whole, because I think something that we should consider as we want to review stories and storytelling is what is different about the tabletop role-playing game like Dungeons and Dragons, and what does it offer as storytellers that we don't really get in other mediums. Because it's not like a movie. Like, I can't walk up to the middle of a movie and say, I attacked the big bad, with my Warhammer. But at the same time, like, it's missing things that other mediums have. Like, what do you guys think?
Well, I think that you can really compare it to a bunch of different kinds of mediums, and it has certain aspects of everything in there. And I think the two that I can think of, most prominently are the computer or the video game style RPG.
Totally.
Very similar battle styles, of course, based on this sort of this sort of tabletop design. Then also, it reminds me of acting, but with the freedom that comes when you're doing animation, where you don't have to actually be physically capable of doing these things or look like this particular person. You speak it and it makes it so.
Yeah. More improv.
Well, and what it offers as opposed to something like an RPG video game is that it's so much more malleable. Because it's every player is ultimately controlled by another person. They can interact with whatever weird innovations or things that you come up with to throw out there. They can react and it can be in character. I mean, even though with games like Skyrim, they've come a long way in terms of being able to make your character the way you want to. There's always going to be that kind of wall there because you're just interacting with a video game.
Yeah. Whereas eventually you're railroaded.
Eventually, in some way, eventually you're railroaded with the die. I mean, even with the voice acting and stuff like that, they can't have. They can't have
an infinite amount of options.
Exactly, yeah. But the thing is, with a game like this, you can actually have that.
Most obvious way is, when you get to name your own character in a video game. That video game, they will never actually speak your character's name audibly.
Exactly.
In this, everyone else at the table knows you and are going to interact with you as that person.
Yeah, and so do the characters the DM controls.
Well, it's just interesting that as far as video games have come, they haven't reached and probably will never completely reach the level of something that's been around for so long.
It's fascinating the way in which this particular medium is doing something where you cannot quite reach that technological advancement. Well, at least not with our current technology. That might be unfair.
And with that sort of improv element, it has an energy to it. Like it's kind of like almost like an improv comedy show where it's like you go in and because it isn't completely scripted, like anything can happen.
Yeah. The only person...
One thing, someone recently compared it to, it was Sarah Yoon, who writes for, StoryForge, and she compared it to murder mystery dinners, which I've never done.
No, but that's a really good comparison. Because it's a lot like them, where
it's
you don't
the gathering
really know
of friends,
what's
and everyone's going to kind of be themselves, but not really, because they're being someone else, and then you're kind of playing at this...
And it's kind of funny because you might think that because of someone like the DM who's literally ruling the world that they would know anything that's going on, but I can just tell you as experience that the DMs are so often, like as a DM myself, I'm so often surprised by what my players do or decide not to do. It's just, you don't ever expect it. You're just like, why would you make that decision? Or why wouldn't you make that decision?
There's probably, a positive aspect to that too. I suppose as a DM, you could be tempted to go, I'm gonna lightning bolt anyone who steps out of the plot line that I'm putting down here.
A rock just happens to fall out of the sky.
Oh my goodness!
No, every DM groans and the player says, "Okay, so what's that character's name? What's your name? Random innkeeper number 4." And I have to think of an answer as a DM. And you just have to have that improv.
We are all Jeff.
Yeah, well, but that could work if they're all changelings. Anyways, but here's the thing:
is Kingdom of Jeff, where everyone is named Jeff.
Oh my gosh, that'd be
blessed
so much fun.
Be Jeff.
But that's the cool thing about D&D too is you have improv in the sense of acting, where if you're a character, you're interacting with other characters. You also have the improv in the sense of creativity, right? Yeah. The DM can plan their world as much as they want. They can put as much detail as they want into their world before a game begins. But as soon as the game begins, they immediately have to become improv creators. Because they have to think of a way to interact with these characters that no matter how much they hear about, they will not know what they're like until they see them at the table.
Well, it's fantastic. And not just for DMs. There's a lot of that flexible thinking that goes on, but for the players as well. There, you have to then engage with whatever the DM's throwing at you. Yes. Engage with your own character that you've made up and make sure that they're consistent. Yeah. And then at the same time deal with everyone else at the table. You've got everybody telling this individual story of their character. And it's impacting everyone else who's sitting there.
Well, because your character is part of the universe, you can throw things out there that just become part of the world.
Yeah, you can just say, well, of course everyone lives in this town.
One kind of amusing thing that happened during our game is that, my character, he was from a small town called Barnwall, and just by, we basically turned it into this kind of comically small village that only has a barn wall, and that's the only
the attraction there.
And it's... Gosh, it's just for me, that's what I love about
barn wall.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is you have this cooperative creativity, right? Yeah. You have this storytelling where you might get this if people sat down and made, like, I think of comics, because you have the artist and the writer getting together, or maybe if you had a group of people writing a novel together, or making a movie. But this is a story where everyone kind of gets to put their, their own 2 cents in.
Well, and then it can take on a different tone depending on who your DM is and who your players are. One of my favorite memes that I found for D&D is it's the how all DM parties first start off, and then it shows the Fellowship of the Ring picture right there, and then how they eventually end up, and it's the Monty Python Knights.
Yeah.
Run away!
Well, because, and you have those elements, right? And depending on the DM wants it, it can be an incredibly goofy game, an incredibly dark game. You can run horror campaigns. You can run, like I said earlier, sci-fi campaigns. You can run really gritty, universes, or you can just have whimsical adventures.
In a way, yeah, you're not even limited to the landscapes that are set there. If you want to make a Western story with elves, you can make a Western story steampunk elf guy.
What's interesting is when you have that kind of like widespread collaboration effect, what it does is it makes the story take on a life of its own.
Absolutely,
it does.
I mean, it's almost like it's what you have seen happen with things like Star Trek. Like Star Trek, it's obviously you had individual people who created it, but now it's its own thing independently of what anybody really wants it to be. And with this style of storytelling,
but kind of at an accelerated rate.
Exactly, that happens, but at a faster rate.
Yeah, and the entire time it's constant communication between the DM and the PCs and changes.
And there's pros and cons to this. I'm not going to just speak completely in favor of it. Mm-hmm. If you have someone who's decides they want to derail things, they can really do a bang up job.
Players can destroy worlds.
Players can destroy worlds.
There's a level of responsibility for all of the people involved.
Yeah, yep. I mean, there like you said, there are pros and cons. Like I had a game, and I love this game, but I made it. I was the DM, and I made it very comical. But the players all chose very dark backstories, so we had to readjust things to make it fit a very kind of goofy universe with these really dark characters. Like if everyone in the Batman comic was in Bizarro world, it was just things like that happen sometimes where you have okay, well, I made a very serious world and these comical characters came in. How do I change that? I don't know. I think the medium itself is beautiful because of those frustrations where you're like, dang it, I built the world this way, but the characters aren't playing by it.
Yep.
That's not. I mean, part of me as a writer wants to say it's not something you get in novels, but another part of me says I've sat at my computer and said my characters aren't listening to me. Well, But at the same time, this is in one sense, you won't understand the characters.
This is a game you play, hopefully with friends.
Oh yeah.
And with your friend group, with how everyone's doing at that time, it's going to be a different thing.
Yeah.
If people want to be silly, it can be silly. If people want to be cooperative and actually tell a great epic story of these heroes and this land, then you can do that too.
Absolutely.
You just want to. I think you kind of want to make sure everyone's on the same page.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that's one reason why so many people like to build their characters together to kind of figure out. Okay, what's your guy going to cover, and what can I do in response to that? I mean,
it's really not all that different than working with a co-author. I mean, you're not gonna, when you choose a co-author, you need to do so responsibly. And it's kind of like that with the D&D game, where I mean in order to have a really, I don't want to make the whole thing sound too exclusive or anything. But I mean if you want to have a really good game, everyone has to sort of be at least vaguely on the same wavelength.
Or play at your own risk. I mean,
or you could
go
chaotic.
Be chaotic.
So what as storytellers, what benefits do you think there are to playing D&D compared to not playing it?
Okay, so you mean outside of just enjoying that form of storytelling?
Because D&D, I personally just love it as it's fun. It's just straight up fun. But I also think there are benefits to being a storyteller and playing this game.
Well, yeah, I think that there's a lot that can be said for storytelling in particular. I think maybe character is one of the best things that you get out of this. And it allows you to look at the psychology of these different people. And I've known people who've used D&D almost therapeutically to kind of examine aspects of their personality and what would do they kind of have that leadership capacity in them? So can they play it? So they'll play a leader, or these different aspects of what they want to do. Yeah. And I'm not going to say that it's a tried, tested, and true kind of thing that someone should do for psychological therapy, but it is fun to play out those other parts of yourself that you might not always get to be doing.
Well, I know for me, just sort of being in that environment where you just get into one character's head and that one character is all you have control over. It allows you to sort of examine what that character is in such a higher level of detail. So it's not like you're writing a story or a book with multiple ones where because you have control over the entire world.
Yeah.
There's a certain there's a flexibility with that you can do with the characters that you just can't do with D&D because it has to work in a certain framework.
Right, but as a PC in D&D, you don't know what's going to happen next game.
Exactly, yeah.
You don't.
So you're forced to not just write that character outside as if they are omniscient.
You have to get enough in the character's head that you're able to react realistically with the character.
Yeah.
And that's hard to do, and I think that's actually a muscle, like sort of a writing muscle. That's actually really hard to strengthen, and I think with D&D, that's one way to do it.
And it's not even just a logical kind of thing of how you react. There are aspects of this where it's just purely gut emotion of playing that character, how they might respond, and it might not be what you were expecting your character might do if they were thinking it out, because in that moment it's emotionally charged.
Your character became so emotionally attached.
And what makes that so effective is that when you're writing a character in another story, you can't be purely logical.
Yeah.
Because unless you're writing a Vulcan or something.
Sure.
Because your characters, if they're well written, for the most part, should not be purely logical. So being able to gain access to that sort of faculty, I think it can be extremely helpful.
Personally, I think as a writer, it benefits your writing individual characters because it lets you understand what an individual character feels like, and even if they're someone who's rational at times, you get to understand why do people make mistakes? Why do characters make dumb decisions in the heat of the moment?
Exactly.
And if you've ever killed the goblin you shouldn't have killed, you know very well why, because that goblin needs to die, and you're emotionally compromised.
Yeah. And actually, one thing that's really hard to do with characters is to make them make dumb decisions in a way that feels realistic.
Yeah, right. And I think also personally, I'd put in my 2 cents that a writer should definitely be interested in DMing in Dungeons and Dragons.
Totally.
Because not only you get that perspective a little bit of the player experience of not knowing the world, but the DM has that experience of not being in control of their characters and seeing how other characters think and rationalize, and justify things. And that can be really useful to you because, frankly, all of your characters, since you wrote them, are probably gonna have similar waves of thoughts that you do. But being able to see other characters interacting with your world will help you expand your understanding of characters. Will make better characters.
So I think that one of the best things about this is that it gets the writer out of their own head.
Yes.
And it exposes them to different ways of building and playing out these characters.
Yeah.
As a writer, sometimes you're tempted to continue to think about a certain type of character, or even, subconsciously there are these threads that are uniting all of your characters and these similarities that are between them all. I think we've all seen the shows or read the books where there's honestly not that much of a difference between the way this one person's dialogue is written and the way another one ends up sounding. It'll be every character on the show is incredibly witty at all times, even the character who's supposed to be dumb, or even the one character who's supposed to be highly intelligent, or the character who's disconnected. Just everyone kind of starts to sound the same, and I think that exposing someone to characters that they don't think up, like that, and watching them unfold in this way, even alongside someone that they're making at that moment, someone who they're making that progression happen, to see someone going on a completely different path, going through similar events, I think that's fascinating. I think that can really help the writer to get out of that kind of myopic lens that can develop.
Well, it also, for me, I think it removes that alter of the protagonist, right? Because in this universe, in D&D, everyone has that option to become the hero of the story. And in a sense, the party itself as a group is the hero. Like, they're the main characters.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're writing a story about a protagonist's progression and success or failures, you have the danger of just having every side character be, supporting or just watching what the main character is doing. But in this universe, every character every player character is an entire character and should be considered and treated almost like the main character.
But at the same time, and I've played a couple of different games now, and I've heard about a couple of different games, within certain campaigns, certain characters and certain players kind of rise to the top, as it were.
Yeah.
And they then kind of fill the main character spot, and they might not be the character that you think was going to do that. In a way, you might get the one character who was the cleric and was kind of the supportive character might somehow take the spot of the champion and might kind of become, if you were going to transfer this into another setting, the main character, as it were.
Yeah, but it lets you have those options as a writer, and it lets you just remind you of just not being limited to just, the story's just about this character.
Yeah.
Though I do want to say that the writer is not the only artist, I would say that benefits from playing D&D. For example, I think actors should definitely play Dungeons and Dragons.
Definitely. Yeah.
It's fantastic because while you might not be able to do everything as bodily as you might want to, there at the same time you don't have to do everything as bodily as you might want to. You don't have to look like that person in order to play that role. You don't have to be able to do those sort of physical feats or have the CGI technology necessary.
Yeah.
You're really only limited by imagination, and you get back to that raw creative space that exists for I know as me when I was a child, that sort of thing that we kind of ignore as we get older, or that we narrow so very much because, you know, we don't play with toys anymore, we don't do this, so we then go into these socially acceptable avenues, as it were, of either being a writer or playing a video game or what have you.
Yeah.
And it narrows in an odd way as we grow. But this is one area that there's so much of that freedom, you know, especially with 5th edition, which is allowing us to have this sort of free system here. There's less of the system bogging you down, keeping you from exploring that imaginative space.
Yeah, let's definitely take some time to talk about 5th edition, because we haven't had a chance to yet. We've been talking too much about D&D, but what do you guys think about like 5th edition as a concept? What is it bringing that's new compared to other games of D&D you've played?
Well, the element that really stood out for me, and this was even as little D&D as I played, this was one thing that just stood out. Like I said, stood out for me was the element that now it gives you a way of sort of generating. The game can generate a character's backstory and traits for you.
Yeah.
By you do random rolls and you choose one broad. I forget what's the term that it
there's like you pick like a personality trait, a flaw, an ideal, and a bond.
Exactly. Yeah, and you can pick them on your own, or you can even roll for them, and it'll just happen for you.
That's the thing I wanted to say really fast before people like freaked out. Like, it's not a system where like you have to like roll.
Yeah.
If you can choose to, or you can build your own.
Yeah,
exactly. But
for those ignore entirely.
For those who aren't really used to building backstories, aren't really comfortable building backstories, there is the option of rolling.
And to be honest, even if you are used to it, it's kind of fun.
It really is.
To see and make it work based on what the game gives you there.
Yeah, and what happened for my character is I ended up rolling the trait I rolled, and I probably wouldn't have chosen this on my own. But my character's trait was he uses like overly long words incorrectly.
It was fantastic.
And so basically for prepping with my character, that was like the main thing I like seized on, and in like the 3 or 4 days before we played, I just came up with this list of like 30 really long words that I'd randomly put in.
Yeah.
You know, and that ended up being like my character's main defining trait, and it completely shaped how I played the game. And it
didn't just shape how you played.
It was just because of the role. You know,
it didn't just shape how you played. It shaped the tone of that game at large.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. All the characters are influenced by your backstory. What's really interesting to me though about 5th edition is that option is not just something for you to have, oh, that's cool, I can have that with my character.
Yeah.
It's actually on your character sheet because it's a mechanic now.
Yeah, exactly.
Your role-playing actually gives you bonuses in the form called inspiration points. Where if your DM thinks that you're playing according to your personality trait or your flaw, your bond, or whatever, they can give you an inspiration point, and you can use those to get bonuses on dice rolls.
Yeah.
Or you can pass them
Which
to
you
your
can pass
allies.
to another ally who might be in trouble or might be able to do something really sick if you just give them that 1 point boost.
Yeah, and like you can just it encourages cooperation and team playing, and also makes role playing a huge part of the game mechanics.
Role playing saves lives.
Yeah, seriously, it can.
And they made it part of the mechanic in a way that feels very organic, and it doesn't feel forced. Like, if they did that badly, it would have been really easy to that where it could just ruin the whole characterization element. But they did it in such a way where there's such a level of diversity and such a level of choice.
It gives you bonuses.
That it gives you the bonuses without restricting you.
Well, I think, and also then making the option that you can give that to another player, that only strengthens this as sort of that get-together game kind of aspect. Because we've spoken a lot about how this is an art form. This helps us to be better writers and storytellers, but it's also, just a fun thing to do with people.
Yeah.
To do with your friends, and especially when you can play and help them out.
And when the halfling does a backflip over the necromancer, you can give him a bonus to it because you think that's awesome and hilarious.
Because that's just plain cool.
Yeah, like I just love that aspect of it. I love how the mechanics have been compressed to just be very simplified, so that anyone can pick it up and play it.
As people are doing this, the stories are getting better.
Yeah,
because you're all having to role play.
Yeah,
and what I love here. Oh my gosh, what I love so much is because normally in a 3.5 or a 4th edition, some people construct these very detailed characters, but most people, they'll have the one thing kind of going for them. My character wants revenge for X.
Yeah.
And then that's all there is to that character there. This, you don't just have that one revenge. You also have, I'm also not very eloquent, or this one guy wants to kill me because X.
Yeah.
And
Or stealing isn't a problem.
Stealing's not a problem if I want it more.
And you're juggling these different things.
Yeah.
And at that point, it becomes, like a real person. You don't just have the one thing that motivates you.
Absolutely. It's just really cool. And like what I like about the game so much is like you have the backstory elements to give you that, but also the races and the classes have been crazy buffed and crazy updated.
Oh my gosh.
To give you more options to roleplay.
Yeah, just for people who have played the older versions and are coming into this, when you open up that page and you see, oh my gosh, a fighter can do this now? Hang on, don't get scared. The game's not broken because now everyone's awesome.
Yeah, they made every race and every class awesome, and there's no class anyone saying I'm playing. You have to be like, oh great, we have to watch out for that guy. Everybody
matters. Can do something.
Yeah,
and you know what? What's really cool is there's so much that can be done even within those individual groups.
Yeah.
So for instance, you could have a party of 5 fighters.
Yes.
And they could all be specializing in a different way.
Yeah, and they could. The 3 of them could be elves for some reason, and you'd have 3 different elves. You have like the wood elf, the high elf, and the drow. Right? There are sub races, subclasses, feats. There's so many options to enhance your character. Even the equipment section's hilarious. There's like this huge graph of
oh
trinkets.
My gosh! Yes.
And you roll like a D 100 percentile chance to pick up a random trinket, like a mummified hand of a goblin, or a book missing a chapter, or something random like that that can enhance your character.
It could just be something funny that your character has, or it could be something that your DM goes, oh yeah, I kind of like that. I think maybe I can do something with that.
Yeah, but it's all these little details that really are there only to enhance your experience and your creativity that really make 5th edition, I think, worth noticing. Frankly, I've played 3.5 a lot, I've played 4th edition a lot. I would say, without a doubt, 5th edition is my favorite.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
It gives you the most options and the most freedom to do what you want, and the DM the most freedom to create whatever they want in their universe.
See, I don't know. I haven't played enough 5th edition yet to say that, but I can see how you would like that, because this game is taking what's awesome about 4th and what's awesome about 3.5 and just meshing them together in a way that I haven't really seen it break or be inconsistent or be a problem in any sort of major way.
It's still brand new, so we don't know for sure. Like, I'm sure as the game
we're
goes
gonna
on,
discover
we're going to see
something
problems.
eventually.
But right now, it's just a really good game. It's really fun.
Solid.
Yeah. All right, guys. Closing thoughts.
I mean, I'm not the huge D&D fan here, but I mean, for what it's worth, I enjoyed it a lot. I do think that for my one time of play, I do think 5 is better than 3.5. And I really look forward to playing it more in the future and creating more characters.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I want to be able to try out some more classes. I can't wait till they bring in some more races and stuff into this version, and just kind of see where this eventually develops. But I'm not gonna stop playing 3.5 or what have you. I think this is just another great way to play a tabletop RPG, and I enjoyed it. I think it was fun. I can't wait to play again, and I think this is a wonderful place for new people, casual people with no experience of this to come in and just to try it out, to play a game, and to maybe do something nerdy that they never thought they would. But, they could probably have a really good time doing it.
Definitely.
They could certainly have a great time doing it.
Yeah, I definitely want to agree with you on that. Like, for my closing thought is I think that 5th edition is the game for new players. Like, it's easy to learn. Like I said, it could probably take you 10 minutes to get every rule in the game. Like, you can pick it up really quickly. And it's big enough that you can still do everything you want to do with your... Like, you can push your imagination to the limits and get what you want. I'm still excited to see more books come out. DM's Guide comes out next month. I really want it. Monster Manual comes out after that. Like, I'm excited to see this new system advance and continue to grow into becoming one of those big systems like 3.5 was. But yeah, I love it. I can't wait to keep playing it. I'd encourage everybody to try it out.
Do it.
All right, that's Critical Hit on 5th edition. Take care, guys.
See ya.
Laters.